From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Hi, and welcome to Space Brains, the show where we joy-watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey, and this is Mark.
Hiya, it's episode 85, which means it's a classic time, and the sci-fi film we're looking at is Minority Report. Came out in 2002. In this episode, we'll reveal what we thought about the film, the ins and outs of narrative and film language, plus a nice deep dive into Tom Cruise waving his hands in front of a screen, or maybe some other science that the filmmakers are proposing. Minority Report teams up Spielberg and Tom Cruise. It's the first Spielberg sci-fi we're looking at, Surrey on Space Brains, even though he's made quite a few.
So far,
that we've, as of 85 episodes. And it's definitely a classic. The screenplay was by Scott Frank and John Cohen, based on the short story The Minority Report by Philip K. Dick.
So this is your spoiler warning.
Warning.
Turn back now and watch the film and then tune back in and hear all sorts of nonsense.
Otherwise, the precogs will know that you have not watched the film.
In fact, we already know you haven't watched the film.
Yes.
And now you have. Thank you.
Thanks for watching and tuning back in. Minority Report is obviously one of these science fiction films set in the future, and you know that because you've just watched it, where a special police unit is able to arrest murderers before they commit their crimes. An officer from that unit is himself accused of a future murder. Dum dum.
Dum dum dum.
What is going to happen? But first of all, what was your number one takeaway from Minority Report, sorry?
My number one takeaway from Minority Report is that in the future, we will all become musical conductors, orchestral conductors, in order to interact with our computers.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I can't wait. I forgot how this scene played out, where Tom Cruise first, he gets a little red wooden ball that drops down through a little spirally thing.
A pool.
But he has the orchestra music on, and he's most distinctly, conducting the orchestra whilst bringing up all the different information and scrolling through information.
Oh, no, it's awesome.
And it was a nice sort of
gloves. He's got some sort of weird gloves.
Gloves. It's almost like a dance.
It is.
It was a very nice sort of mixing there of the technology and the music and the physical movements to tell us a story, and show us the story, which is, I think it was really good sort of storytelling technique in that, if you're looking at a detective film, it's the police briefing.
Yeah.
Except it was done with music and with movements and with images flashing about the place, and not a lot of just description of everything.
I think for anyone that's maybe was born after the year 2002 and you're watching a film like this now, even though you'd be 20, maybe not. Maybe if you're about 15, 16 and you are also listening to us right now, you might watch this and think, he's just doing the scroll and the swipe and the zoom in and the zoom out. We can do that on an Apple phone or something. But yeah, when this came out, this was a revolutionary way of looking at computers. This was pretty cool.
About 3 or 4 years before, phones did do this.
Yeah, phones didn't do this, I know. So I think, I just reckon that when I watched this just now, I was like, 2002. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. They've taken it to a new dimension, haven't they? It's a different way of scrolling through information, and it was done as such a dance, as you were saying.
I suspect the Apple ads somewhat borrowed from this concept, because if you look at some of the Apple ads going back, they had a lot of the time they would have some sort of funky music, and then remember the silhouette dancing to the music, but with an iPod or whatever it was they were advertising. And this scene in Minority Report, being that it's you would interact with computers in a sort of an organic fashion, a natural fashion. It was natural to have that music playing with him moving, like the actual movements he's doing. There's a video clip by who is it? Is it? Oh gosh, I want to say guy from Talking. No, was it Talking Heads or is it? Oh, I can't remember. So in the video clip, the singer is doing these same sort of movements, like he's sort of these strange sort of hand and arm motions, sort of dancing to the music he's singing with images going behind him.
Yeah, right.
And in an interview, he revealed that he can't dance, but he was told that he was going to dance this video clip. He was like, well, I can't do that. But he said he was entranced by these African tribeswomen who were singing and telling a story, like they do one of these oral history type of things.
Right.
And there were set hand movements and arm movements that go with the story, like Incy Wincy Spider or, whatever. But
choreographed.
And so he was doing movements inspired by that, these sort of storytelling through arm motions. And this all comes back to Minority Report, because that's exactly what I was reminded of when he was conducting this orchestra. But these hand movements, he puts one down, then he moves forward.
I guess another way to look at it, Bart, is it's almost a bit like a hand surgeon or a surgery, isn't it? Like it's very precise. The other people, his assistants, the other police officers, they're all kind of there to help do that specific job. So it feels like it's a masterpiece, and maybe something that Tom Cruise is the character doing it. Sorry, Tom Cruise is the actor playing John Anderton in this, I'm pretty sure. He acts like a surgeon in that scene. He's a real expert in it.
So what about, is this hope, warning, or an experiment?
Warning. This is a complete warning, I reckon, because really the essence of this story is saying, can you really predetermine someone's intentions? And it's based on an old book by Philip K. Dick, a short story, The Minority Report. And it reminds me, this type of story, I think why I love this type of story is it reminds me a bit of like Fahrenheit 351, is it? 451, that's it, sorry. And 1984, those kind of sci-fi films where we're taken into a bit of an abstract future that we take something like this, the idea that, you could stop murder. It's a debate, isn't it? It's like you could stop murder if you could determine who's going to murder who. So Mark's going to murder Surrey because Surrey's annoying him.
Can't remember the goddamn video clip.
But we could prevent that because we can kind of tap into Mark's brain and find out, he's thinking about murdering Surrey. So the question then is, of course, but he hasn't actually murdered Surrey. So has he done anything wrong? And it's the same in the premise of Minority Report is really that question. Like, is someone guilty before they've even committed the crime?
At what point is it just thought crime?
Yeah. And we all think thoughts and different things. And in fact, there's that great scene in this film where they go to kind of like a fantasy world tech kind of nightclub place or whatever. And, one guy's having sex, with a whole bunch of people around him. One other guy's getting a promotion. And it's all just, basically playing with people's brains. It's not really happening. And that's the thing. And the customer at the time is asking the boss, I want to kill my boss. That's what I want to actually do. So, we all sometimes we have those thoughts. And so that this type of sci-fi is a bit more of that older traditional sci-fi storytelling where it's, like a question about human morality and how would that be if it actually played out, like 1984, without spoiling, it's all about, Big Brother and that idea of like Big Brother controlling people and people's brains and all that sort of stuff. We won't go into 84 tonight, but the idea is the same in Minority Report. And I love that. I loved that you'd really taken it to another essence, aren't you?
Yeah, what I liked about this is where we get that sort of high point where we're told, and we did warn you about spoilers, but we're told that John is going to...
Well, now he's going to murder someone.
Yeah, he's a murderer, and it's a premeditated murder.
Yeah, that's right.
And, of course, this character's sitting there going, Leo, I don't even know a Leo. I've got no... What the hell? How can I possibly do this?
Yeah.
And you sort of think, well, the easy thing is, and I think someone even says it in there, is just don't go anywhere near anyone called Leo.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to happen in 35 hours. Like,
Yeah.
just go away for the weekend or just stay in the office for 48 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and if you find someone called Leo, just plan not to kill them. Except as we find out, when you get to the final point, he does kill Leo, or Leo dies, depending on how you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
But it becomes sort of almost a driving point of the story.
Yeah. Well, the question then is would he have killed Leo if he hadn't known
Yes.
about the predetermination, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, it's as humans, this is what this film's about. Like, it's like your predetermined will versus has your destiny already been chosen for you, or do we have free will? It's that old chestnut, really, isn't it? Like, are we destined to live a certain way in our life, or are we going to change it? And then, like a good time travel film, in a way, if you're told your future, do you still end up in your future?
Yeah.
Like, if someone was to say to you, oh, at the end of the week, you're going to die, like, what would you, and that was determined, it'd be like, oh, well, what could I do to stop that? You know, or in this
Or
context,
does everything I do actually cause it to happen?
yeah, or does it, yeah, am I just actually making it happen by now I know the fact that I'm going to die at the end of the week?
Because that's what sort of happens here is
Yeah.
he learns that he comes up as the killer.
Yeah.
Had he just gone, oh, okay, and been arrested and put the little halo on and dropped the thing, he never would have gone anywhere near it. Like, it
Leo
wouldn't
would
have,
have been still alive.
yeah, but not only that, but he wouldn't have even found out who Leo was. And
No.
it's supposed to be premeditated murder, so he would never have even premeditated it.
Yes.
Which, yeah, it raises that morality there, the moral decision of, do we wait until the very last second where we know he has made the decision to kill Leo, or do we just stop it now? But the thing is, if you stop it now, it's like he doesn't even know who he is. He's not even in the situation. He's not a killer. So what are you stopping?
And Agatha, one of the precogs, you know, like when he kidnaps her, that's what she kind of keeps saying. She keeps questioning that. Like, you can change this.
Yeah, you can choose
You can
differently.
choose not to go there. Just don't go to the apartment. You know, like, don't, you know, and he's like, but I've got to find out. Bloody John, Tom Cruise, leave it all alone.
I've got to say, I'd be pretty curious too, though. It's like
Yeah.
going,
'Cause he did-
I cannot imagine a situation where I would be willing to murder someone.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what environment that would be. So I'm kind of curious to know this.
Who is this person?
This person must somehow inspire me to kill them. Like, but
what
what is it?
about-
What could possibly inspire me to do that?
But why not try to meet them after the murder time? You know, like just a few days later. Like, just try a different time. You know, maybe be fine. So, was this the first time you'd seen Minority Report?
No, this is the second time. The first time I saw it, I think, was in the cinema.
Right.
And
Cinema one.
Yes, well, so this is back when I was in Melbourne. Yes, I would have seen it. Oh, geez, was I in Melbourne? I was in Melbourne.
2002.
Yeah, I would have seen
Roughly.
this in the cinema with my friend, not my wife. I had no wife at that point. I didn't even have a girlfriend.
Ooh, Surrey's revealing some timeline points in
Yes.
his life. You could listen to all 85 episodes and
You could go
start
back to
pitch
if
story.
you had a time machine, you could go back to 2002 before I even met my wife.
Oh, I like
And yeah, you could
disrupt the time
you could watch
continuum.
Minority Report with me and my friend.
You could. And what was that first impression, you think? Do you remember what you felt about this film? I mean, I think...
I thought it was a real sort of, I knew it was a Spielberg film, so I was
Yeah.
expecting it to be of good quality. Like he does reliable films. I think he's a reliable filmmaker. I watched it. I wasn't disappointed. There was very interesting concepts and ideas. This is definitely a film that I remembered. There's films like my son was asking me, "Oh, what was that thing called in Hellboy that?" At the end part when they were doing this, I'm like, Hellboy, I don't know. We watched it last week. And he's like, yeah, I know. There was, he fought a giant, but I only remember that from the trailer. So I watched this whole film and I'm like struggling. And there's films like that where I'm just going, I really don't remember, can't recall what it is that happens. But not this one. This one I definitely remembered the whole lot, which I think points to the classicalness of it.
Yes.
The fact that we're going to call it, it's not too old a film, but I think it has a lot in there that I remembered it.
Well, you can have
quite
an instant
clearly.
classic anyway on that.
Yeah,
definition, I think.
I quite clearly remembered it. It stood out. The cars where he was in his self-driving car thing, and the way they sort of organised themselves and shuffled and transferred about the place. That's like a dream for me, and I reckon that's what we need to get to with our self-driving cars. It's just these.
Spend the time and energy on that.
This orchestration of vehicles. All these people with this romanticizing. Oh, but I like to feel the driving. Oh, that's because you're an old man already. You know, like yeah. There's people who like riding horses too, but you don't see them riding on a freeway.
That's right.
Yeah, so you drive your car on a dirt track or a sports track or something. But when you're actually just trying to get from point A to point B, just let the computers do it.
Yeah,
much better.
Maybe there'll be like a theme park one day where you can like literally be in peak hour traffic on a freeway, like just a make believe freeway, and people can cut you off, just to give you that feeling of still being behind the vehicle.
Yeah,
you just drive around in a circle really slowly.
Yes, really slowly,
and deliberately people cut you off and. But then that way you could feel the traffic.
It's like the opposite of NASCAR.
Yeah. The opposite.
Yeah, so tell me though, there was a lot of science fiction in this. Any science bits that you particularly liked?
Ooh. Well, beside the or the conductor experience that we see with Tom Cruise dealing with his computer, are the eyeballs. Definitely the eyeballs. Yes. Yeah, so their eyeballs are, and in a lot of futuristic films, the eyeball is the identity, I suppose, isn't it? And I mean, iPhones do the Face ID thing at the moment. And so to get into places, your retina's scanned, he's scanned by the police on the metro, everywhere. It's kind of a really easy way to track people.
And all the ads.
And all the ads read who your eyeball, and then that knows you. So, of course, when John is on the run, he gets his eyeballs cut out by this dodgy surgeon, which I loved. That's a really good scene. We'll come back to that later.
This dodgy surgeon.
Yeah. You don't remember me. But yeah, I the ability just to remove someone's eyeballs and put in new eyeballs, and whatever it was that 12 hours of not taking your eye, the eye patch
if you
off?
see the light, you will be blinded.
He did see the light.
You wait for 12 hours.
Yeah. We were told that so many times just to ramp up then the spiders. The spiders were also a pretty cool, the spider bots.
Yeah.
They were a really cool sci-fi element.
Just charging through, just, annoying the crap out of people.
Personally, the concept of this film questions the pre-crime. That is something that really irks my... I would not like to be in this society.
No,
you know what I mean? No, because it's just personally, I'm a big believer in justice, and I think sometimes the justice system already gets it wrong, and and you got to make sure that people are guilty no matter what. I'm a big believer in that, right? And so pre-crime is just ridiculous to me. I would hate to be in a society that lives in.
See, what I thought would be better is the opening of the film. They have a very dramatic last second, grab his hand as he's stabbing down with the scissors.
Yeah.
Right? So you can sort of go, well, the best you could really get him for there is maybe intent to kill.
Yeah.
Or just assault with a deadly weapon.
Yeah.
No, there's no grievous bodily harm because he's not actually hit anyone yet.
Yeah.
But rather than locking him up, because it was a crime of passion, we could see that, wouldn't we just give him counselling? That sounds to me is court-mandated counselling. Okay, you had a bit of an episode there. Let's get this sorted out. You and your wife are having troubles. Yeah. We don't want that to progress to you murdering someone. Yeah,
because is that guy at the start going to actually murder anyone else?
Yeah, he's not really what you'd call a particular danger to society. He was just...
a danger to his wife.
He got... he got built up to a certain... As I said, the premeditated murder comes... through a lot faster, a lot earlier, I should say. Whereas the crimes of passion, it's only at the last moment they actually get warnings about it.
Yeah.
So it goes to show this guy has never planned to kill anyone. Yeah. He has no intention to do it.
I guess the concept, and we are sort of explaining this, however, is that because of the success of the program, people realising it, then people are actually questioning my thoughts. You don't even want to think it, right? Because then you'll be accused of it.
Well, that's that 1984 business there.
And that starts to get to, again, that thing that you're removing people's just free thought. Because, they said, I just joked about the the freeway peak hour, you might go, oh, that guy cut me off. Oh, he's a dickhead. I'm going to ram him up. You know, like you don't actually do it, or most people don't, but you might have that thought. Well, in this world of Minority Report, you'd be arrested.
Yeah, you'd wonder, will that trigger?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to like really strengthen that.
They're trying to say that no, it wouldn't. You know, just as sort of idle thoughts wouldn't trigger. It's only if you are determined to do it. Like if it's actually been predetermined that you're going to do it.
Yeah.
But then you'd always ask, well, why do you say predetermined? Like, how do you know I don't just change my mind last second?
You could change your mind last, because that's what humans.
That guy stabbing down with the scissors could have sort of stabbed down and partway through just let his arm go limp and just go, who knows?
And in fact, the film does prove it, doesn't it? Because John doesn't kill Leo.
No.
And also at the end, Burgess or Lamar, he also kills himself.
Yes.
So it shows that humans do change the storyline anyway, which puts fault at a system like this, you know.
Yes.
But it's that scary future, and that's why it's definitely a warning, this film. It's that scary future of like, oh yeah, what if we came up with a great idea of arresting people just on the thought of crime, you know? And then that way that would stop crime, you know? So anyway, did you have a favourite scene?
Favourite scene, I did love, when I first watched this, my favourite scene was the bathtub spiders.
Yeah.
Like that was so tense, and you just know that he's only at 6 hours, and it was really told quite carefully to only do it at 12 hours.
They give him a little zap, don't they?
They're zapping him, and
they are really ruthless little spiders, those things.
Yeah, Spielberg's really good at this because... First of all, they go into the building, so you know it's going to happen, and he's running back he's running around, he's blind, he's trying to figure out a way out, and then he gets into the ice bath, and he says, oh, it just disappeared, and you think, that's how he's done it, he just has to hold that. But then they're like, okay, well, that's wrong, but also go check out the apartment.
Yeah.
Because, you know, did they just jump out the window? Was it a misreading or what? And
Spielberg builds the tension in that scene.
Yeah,
so
and then the spiders come through, and you're still hoping, and then it zap, and they're crawling over him, and they're like zapping into his eye. Is that going to blind him? Is he screwed now?
Yeah,
that was a really great scene.
It was an awesome scene.
And this time when I watched it, I really liked the automated car escape. So he was in his automated car. I don't know why he jumped in an auto car thingo when he's wanted, because immediately he's just going to be recalled back, which it does.
Yeah.
But he kicks his way out and jumps off, and he plays like Frogger or something, jumping from car to car and through the balcony and into the apartment where they're doing yoga. And so there's like these people bent over double, and they don't unbend to us. They sort of waddle up to him while they're still double. Yeah. I know. I don't remember the comedy. There's a number of comedy scenes in this film.
There is,
which again I think is one of these great ways of showing, okay, this is a serious scene. So the eyeball thing, no comedy. Nothing in that is funny. There's actually like a mother getting distraught because her children are being, scanned.
Yeah.
And there's, a couple having a fight and they get stopped in the middle. It's quite a tense, very serious scene. But his escape there is a bit of fun. Like we're talking about the... Act 2 fun and games. And he jumps through, and there's like this yoga class, and because he lands all sort of contorted up similar to the way the yoga people are, and that in itself is a bit of a joke. And then they waddle over, you okay, and they're all sort of bent in half, and it's, which is, are you okay? And they're like looking like tremendously contorted creatures,
And even when and the other funny bit is when he breaks back into the station with his eyeballs in the bag, and the plastic bag, and he drops them. And they go rolling down.
He chases after them. And...
I was actually... When I watched that this time, I was a bit like, because it was quite tense. Like he's going to break back into the police station, and he uses the eyeball, and it works. And then he drops it, he fumbles it and drops it. You're like, and he chases it. It's quite comedic, like it really is. So.
I didn't notice it the first time I watched it, and I think this is a sign of something that was good, because when I was first watching it, I was really drawn to the story, but it obviously had an effect on me throughout because. It plays you in that up and down way. You go, the tension's up, you've got this spider scene. But just before that, when he's reaching in the fridge and he goes past, he goes, oh, there's the milk. And then he passes by the nice sandwich and grabs the rotten one and goes, bah! And then in panic, he pushes aside the good milk and grabs the rotten milk and bah! And then he's drinking the ice water, which was actually the, ice for his eyeballs. And it's just... It's a bit comedic, and the nurse, she was a bit funny with her
grabbed his ass.
I shouldn't say it was really funny because she's sexually abusing this fellow, but still, it was
a bit funny.
It was done clown-like, in a
was
clownish fashion. And, I thought it was very good. But then they had this tense scene. So it was up and down. So that's my two favourite. My favourite scene when I first watched it was the spiders in the bathtub. And this time it was the escaping in the automatic cars. I just loved the way it was presented. And you don't... I can't think of any... Maybe in the new Total Recall, there's kind of a similar sort of thing where they're jumping across robotic things. But anyway, it's quite a unique scene, I think.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's very world building, that scene as well.
Yes,
because it shows you the society that we're in a bit more. So that's really great.
All these people in their own little pods getting about the place.
Have you been up to anything creative or science fiction wise yourself?
I'm going through my novel again. I'm working out a better pacing of plot points. Taking my own advice here with these 3-act structure, seeing how that applies to this novel. And
great idea.
Also, because it doesn't quite work the same with novels. The pacing is slightly different between a novel and a movie. But a lot of things that I've learnt from years of studying science fiction films, for example, has led to a certain understanding of the art of show and not tell, which is always spoken about in writing. And it's important there that it's a matter of going, okay, here's my mood point. I need my fun and game, so I need at least one sort of scene that you're expecting to have happen, like you want to have happen. But then I need to introduce, well, this main character, she has a trait where she drinks too much, like to escape. Like she has a bit of a problem. So I'm going to have a scene where that's sort of played up, and when we discover that she's aware of it and she's not happy with it, so this is something that she's going to have to change. So there's like this scene which doesn't move the plot, like it doesn't move the story, but it builds the character and the world. And then I need another scene where there's this character. He's very persistent but open-minded, and so I'm going to have a little scene where he's doing something to show that. And so I'm still putting that together.
Maybe you need some eyeballs rolling down.
I need some eyeballs rolling down some hills. And then the other thing, of course, is my son has said he wants to learn how to write computer programs, computer games.
Yep.
Which has warmed the cockles of my heart. We'll see how serious he is about that. But that made me dust off the computer game that I mostly wrote not long ago, and I'm back into that one. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, awesome.
So the other thing is, we've got our year 2023 film festival has just opened for entries.
Yeah,
we've got our first entry, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll hear more about that as we go along.
Yes.
It's got similar categories. There is a new category this year, which is music videos, because we actually got 4. Was it 4 or 5 music videos?
I think it was 4. Yeah.
Yeah, in the last one, and they were really cool, but we didn't really have a category for them to compete in.
Yeah.
So it was kind of difficult to judge them. So this year we're definitely putting in a music video one.
Nice.
So if you're a musical act or producer and you've got a music video that sort of is a science fiction story of some sort, get onto it.
Definitely. Go for it. Submit. Start getting cracking, or this is the time now to shoot your film.
Start shooting it.
Definitely. Exciting.
You've got like almost a year.
Yeah. Well, it's probably going to be about 9 months, isn't it?
Yeah.
From here.
Hey, look, if women can have babies in 9 months, you can make a music video.
Oh, I don't know. Film, it's a hard slog.
It's painful. Women don't know what they're...
So start now.
Don't know what it's like. They don't know what it's like.
No, they don't.
No, okay.
Nothing like making a film.
And what about you, mate?
I'm a bit at the clean slate page. I mean, I've got ideas, and I think I might have said it last episode, but I just, I've got a couple of really clean ideas that are sort of ready to go. So it's about what I just joked about there is like literally actioning, pre-production, production, and starting to make it happen. There's also, I'm interested in possibly, there is a particular mobile phone film festival, so that might also dabble my fancy that I might plan to do later in the year. But yeah, it is about doing that. And then on top of that, I want to get cracking on a feature film that is makeable, as in a real low budget feature film. So again, I've got ideas for that. I haven't written the script. So far, the 3 feature scripts that I've written are ones where I never really worried about the budget. I was just trying to write my best, the best feature script that I could write. I wasn't concerned at all about actually filming them, just thinking, oh, yeah, this is such a great idea, someone might invest the money,
Yeah.
But now I'm turning the table over in terms of, okay, well, what is something that would be like, if I just want to go out and shoot this thing with my camera, what would be an idea that we could make? So, earlier on an earlier episode, we looked at Cosmos, and those guys in particular, they shot most of that film in their mum's garage. Like 80% of that film is in a car in their mum's garage. So that was a way that they contained the cost of making that film. So it's the same here. That's what I'm trying to think about. Is like, okay, well, let's just put 3 characters in my garage and see what happens. Saw's another example of that.
Just as a reminder, you probably should let those guys out now.
Yeah, oh, crap, yeah. Ooh.
You shouldn't be keeping them in there for too long.
Especially we're recording for a few hours tonight, aren't we?
Yeah.
So...
They do need a water change.
Well, I might send a text to my wife just to let them out, or at least give them some water. So that's good advice. So there's a couple of big things happening. Maybe over the next few episodes, I can reveal more of that, how it comes. Yeah. And looking forward to the film festival Spacebrains for 2023. So keep an eye out on our socials, website. We'll have more and more information, but you can go to Film Freeway to suss out what it's all about and get thinking. You can never start that too early.
Yes, I try
that would be my advice.
I try to think as often as I can.
Yes.
So
just start.
Just shortly after breathing and heart beating, I'm thinking, that's what I'm doing.
Yes. Okay, let's get stuck into the film Minority Report. We already revealed some of the bits and pieces and things that we like, but let's go through a bit of the narrative structure. Sorry, just mentioned the 3-act structure. We're going to go over that. We'll talk, as we go through it, we'll go into some things about narrative, maybe camera, lighting, sound. This was a Spielberg film, so there's actually lots we can talk about, but we'll talk about some of the key parts as we go through it. So, as I said before, Steven Spielberg directed this. He's directed, I don't know, it's about 4 or 5 science fiction films now over his career. This one's probably his 4th or something if we listed them all out. But so he's not adverse to the sci-fi genre. And he's also, we're doing this as a classic. I think probably when you talk about E.T., that has to be another kind of classic. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, so they're all probably classic films, really, and ones that you should look at if you've never seen them in the science fiction realm. It was based on a screenplay by Scott Frank and Joe Cohen, which was taken from a short story called The Minority Report by Philip K. Dick. Spielberg said on the record in 2002, 2003, said, I think the fans of Philip K. Dick will be happy to know that this is only based on his story, so don't go in expecting it. He knew that he would get some flack from the hardcore sci-fi fans.
You always do.
So, he just kind of basically put it out there and said, well, no, it's just based on it. It's not the same story.
Well,
so.
You couldn't win it either way. If he had directed a film that was word for word, blow for blow, exactly the short story, he'd still get trouble because they go, oh, you made a whole film, you had this opportunity to show more things, and you just did exactly what the story said. And you're like, okay, fine. Oh, geez.
Now, it's definitely a sci-fi film. We've talked about sci-fi elements, talked about, the way that this film elements the story, the hypothesis, the future thinking. Spielberg was really big on, and many filmmakers have done this in the sci-fi, they get futurists. Imagine that as a job. Would you like to be a futurist?
I would love to be a futurist.
They get a futurist to really think about, how technology is in the future. Spielberg said he really wanted like a realistic future, which I love. It's always funny, isn't it? But quite often, I know iRobot, Alex Proyas did that. They did that for iRobot. They kind of had, Audi even designed that Will Smith car. And I think in this, you saw
Lexus.
Yeah, it was Lexus, wasn't it, in this one? Yeah. And it's Audi and iRobot. And so, and Demolition Man was the other one that was Audi, I think, wasn't it? Or was that BMW maybe? maybe. But yeah, they literally say to them, well, what is a future model? You know, and they drive that in the film. So it's a good way of product placement. It gives a bit more funds for the films to blow around. There's that great scene in this, which I was just like, oh, Spielberg's a good money-making guy, where he walks through that mall or train station thing or whatever it is, and you know the sci-fi element is it's detecting his eye and the ads that are then personalised to John. Now we get that with the internet now, don't we?
That drives me nut. That
right, like we're getting this tailored ads, text messages, stuff. So this, I looked at this now in 2022. I don't think that probably resonated as much in 2002 with me, but now in 2020, I'm like, oh yeah, that could be a thing.
That's
like,
it. Yeah,
we're going to be walking down the bloody train station and they're going to be talking to us, aren't they?
Oh, Jesus! Like I personally think we must surely have reached peak advertising.
No,
like
it's never going to end, man. It's just going to get worse.
Surely there must be some point where even the hardcore marketing people go, I think we've gone far enough.
No, sorry. They're coming for you.
No.
In all sorts of ways.
I say that, and I did marketing at uni, so, you know.
You know they're coming.
I know I'd do it.
It's the same techniques, it's just the technology
If
changes.
I could write a brand of spacebrains on your eyeballs, I would.
Listen to us, come into people's earbuds and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I love that scene for two reasons. One, it was cool. In 2022, it kind of makes me a bit sick because I kind of think that we probably are going to get that. Three, I know as a filmmaker, that's how he's paying for some of the special effects in this film, because he's literally just got ads in the film.
Yeah, because they were real brands.
Those are real brands. It's great. It's great. I saw another movie with my wife the other day that did that too, and in a really clever way, because that's a clever way of doing it. So I was like, yeah, and it's the same with the Lexus cars, it's just pure advertising for Lexus, great. And the filmmaker gets some money.
That scene actually almost looked like a Lexus ad.
It did, didn't it? So it's anyway. So and with the screens, when he talked on one of the screens, the like a video conference call to, I think it was to Lamar. It was a see-through computer screen, and it had down the bottom Nokia. Now that's really interesting, isn't it? Because it's 2002. And Nokia is the world leading phone.
It's all over the
telecommunication. Are they the leading brand now?
No. Unfortunately.
They've tried to come back a couple of times, Nokia, but they haven't quite nailed on the head. But in 2002, you would expect the futurists would be like, well, they would be the one leading that technology. Everyone's got a Nokia, right?
Yeah, well, in fact, there's a book I read. It's called The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen.
Right.
And that's all about this process whereby large, established, sensible companies make sensible decisions but fail. And this is the case at Nokia, and he's got a number of case studies in there in the hard drive manufacturing space. He didn't pick up on the phones because this is from 1998 or something or other, looking at diggers. So they used to be all cable-driven, backhoe diggery type things.
Yeah.
And now they're like pneumatic, hydraulic, diggers, which which were unheard of. Like the idea of it, they were heavy, awkward, not very strong, couldn't carry much, useless, basically.
Yeah.
And in the end of that book, he talks about electric cars. He says, so what, and this is 1998, he says, so what do I think would be a disruption in an industry coming up?
Yeah.
And he says, well, it's got to fit these, he has some criteria, and he goes through it, and it's got to fit all of that. And he says, well, I reckon it'd be electric cars. And the reason for that is because at the time, electric cars seem really useless. If you're General Motors and someone says, we should make an electric car, you go, well, hold on, we'll get no range. There's nowhere to recharge them because you want to charge them with no range. And if you do charge them, it takes hours to do.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really expensive. These batteries are really expensive. We get some decent batteries, cost too much. And then, everything about the car basically is not what we have come to expect cars should be now.
Yeah. It's not the combustible engine, right?
But the point is, though, that there's going to be a niche for these electric vehicles, and that's what it, and it's come to pass. So this is back 20 something years ago. He predicted this, and it's come to pass that Tesla basically came in, and I remember Tesla came out, and everyone was like, no one's going to want that. It's too expensive. You don't get enough range. It's just pointless.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden, BMW, General Motors,
they're all
Ford,
doing it,
they're
yeah.
all going, shit, quick, make electric cars. But they're all about 10 years behind Tesla. And so they're struggling and wrestling, and they're trying to get their logistics in place, their the delivery systems, so they can get their battery systems to them and everything.
Yeah.
Tesla's already got all of that worked out. Tesla's got factories. They've got their own battery factories to feed in, and they can just produce cars and cars.
Yeah.
Whereas General Motors is going, well, we've just got to buy whatever batteries we can get a hold of.
Yeah.
And, we can't buy enough to create a pipeline of vehicles that will, they're struggling basically to get it in. So Nokia, I think, suffered the same thing. So we're on top of the world. They went, these big screens, they're too expensive. The touch is inaccurate. You can't have enough memory on them. We don't have 4G,
Cameras.
for example.
Who wants a camera on a phone?
Yeah, and there was no 4G. We're talking 2G back at the time, which was, you couldn't use the internet on that.
Yeah.
And so no sensible person in Nokia would have promoted anything like the iPhone. It would have just been, no, that's ridiculous. You would never... That doesn't serve any of the features that people want from a phone. People want a small phone. Because remember the joke is they're getting smaller and smaller? They don't want like a great big phone the size of a calculator. They don't want to have a short battery life, no internet connection. Although it turns out they're wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. That's Nokia.
And just a fun fact, here in WA, Tesla's whatever model it is, that regular hatchback model, I don't know what it is, T-Series, someone out there correct me, it's the second highest selling car in WA for this last quarter.
Which is, I'd buy one if I could afford it.
Yeah, but it just suddenly shows you, like, it's suddenly, the number one is the Hyundai i30 hatchback, and it's something like 500 car sales, and the Tesla's coming in at number two at like 314. So it's like pushed over the Corolla, it's pushed over the other one. So it's like, the tide is changing.
I'd definitely get one.
And you are right in the logistics. Like, just recently, they have gotten their logistics to Australia on a more regular basis. Yeah. So, like, up to now, it's been a little bit more sporadic, but they've suddenly, like, clicked in those gears and gotten it. And also, last year, they had an agreement with Western Australian mining companies for the lithium.
Yes.
So, like what you're saying, the supply chain, they've taken that next step.
That's the term I was looking for, supply chain.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they've taken. You're exactly right. They've been doing it for longer now, and they know that they have to keep up to demand on their end. They have to have those supply chains.
You've got to think that if General Motors, Holden basically says, we've finally got a electric car model we're happy with, let's start making it. Like, we won't see it here in Australia for ages, because the factories aren't here. No. And they've got to somehow ship them, and they've got to get them certified for Australia. Like, that's a whole nother question. It's going to be years before. So there's still going to be several years where you could be able to get the Tesla, a handful of couple of like maybe the Nissan Leaf. I think you can get here, but not much. Yeah. And no one cares about it because no one likes it. Like, what would you rather drive, a Nissan Leaf or a Tesla? You go, well, I'd like to drive a Tesla, please.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe that's just me because I'm a fat nerd. Yeah, but anyway.
It's a disruptor. They're exactly right. Yeah, that's right. So just to quickly run through Tom Cruise, he plays John Anderton. Good old John. They love that name, don't they? John. It's in a lot of these movies.
Jack, John, both strong names.
I love this actor, Max von Sydow, I think, or Sydow. He plays Lamar Burgess, a great name for the bad guy. Colin Firth, who you kind of think's the bad guy. Oh, Farrell. Yeah, Firth is the Aussie actor, isn't he? Colin Farrell plays Danny Whitwer, and Samantha Morton plays Agatha Lively. This was filmed in the United States, really huge Spielberg kind of blockbuster budget for the time, 102 mil.
Oh, that's max.
And it returned 358 mil at the box office, so it did quite well. Critics kind of didn't like this that much at the time, but over time, if you read a lot of it now, the response seems to be that it's been reassessed as a really classic sci-fi, which I found interesting because it was one that when I saw it, I thought, this is a good film. Like, this is a really good... It's complicated. He kind of tricks you in the story into thinking that John Anderton is going to kill that guy, and then when he doesn't, it kind of spices the story. It's also quite an interesting climax. We'll come to that in a moment. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and doing that choreographed computer scene became part of pop culture. So it's a really interesting film, this one. So I was reading those reviews and looking back, and people who reassessed it. I found that quite interesting.
Yeah, I think it helped that a number of the as you said, a number of the elements have kind of played out in reality.
Maybe that's it. Maybe just over time, people realize, oh, hang on, people did actually like this film, and it affected society. And I mean, it's that Tom Cruise scene of him navigating the computer is like Neo and the blue pill, red pill. It's a pop culture reference.
Yeah.
So I think if a film has a moment that becomes part of pop culture, you've got to say that's an
people
impact.
Still refer to Precrime.
Yeah,
they talk about it.
Yeah. So anyway, we run into 3-act structure. What's the first act? Sorry,
first act
nice
is
and quickly tonight.
Well, first act is introduction,
Yeah.
and the introduction, as it sounds, introduces the characters, the world, the theme, any sort of problems, possibly some desires and motivations.
Yep.
We need a quick, entry into the world. Particularly with a film, you've got an hour and a half, 2 hours at most.
Yep.
The important
Spielberg has longer.
Yes, Spielberg gets a bit longer. So does James Cameron. There's a few people get a bit longer.
Yeah.
The important part of Act 1, though, is towards the end of it, you end up with this moment where the audience, as an audience member, that's when you know what the story is going to be sort of about, where it's heading, what idea you're supposed to think about. And we'll talk about this with Minority Report. It's quite good. Shortly after that, you've got some sort of a debate, some sort of, is that really going to be the story? Is it not going to be the story? Will the main character find their way towards doing this change? How will it affect them? And invariably, they do finally go, I do. I need to embrace this change. I need to find out what's going on and move into Act 2.
Act 2 is the fun and games. It's them on the journey. It's them exploring the story, their decisions, whatever the catalyst was kind of like. They're trying to play it out now. Maybe it is good times. Maybe it's not so good times. But basically, it's like the trailer of the film. It's what we came here to see. We then hit about the middle of the film, called the midpoint. And the midpoint is when things get really serious. That's when some of the stuff they've been trying on their journey maybe fails, or what they thought was going to work out doesn't. And then this starts sort of leading them down a particular path of really things probably going a bit haywire. We have expressions from storytellers or story writing craft like the bad guys close in, or all is lost, and that pivotal dark night of the soul moment. But basically all these beats are heading the character to a moment where really everything they tried, so the fun bits and the bad bits and the journey, they have to hit a moment where it's kind of all not worked. So everything they did try to solve the catalyst now is at a point where it hasn't worked. They're sitting on the side of the road.
I was waiting for the side of the road.
It's raining, and their wife is giving birth to their firstborn son at a hospital that's kilometers away or miles away. And, what do they do? How are they going to get there? And of course, they open up their wallet, but they don't have their wallet that was stolen earlier in the movie, or they spent all every last money on trying to make more money and that didn't work out. So what does this person do? And so there is that dark night of the soul, or just a real unrelenting moment in the crux of the story. And at that moment, that's when they have to decide, hang on, okay, you know what? I've got a new plan. You can put straw into that flat tire and push it off the side of the road and make it to the hospital. Or, in fact, I've never trusted humans, but I'm going to ask for help. I've never asked for it. I'm going to actually ask for help, So they do something that they've never really tried before. And by doing that, takes them into Act 3.
In Act 3, of course, they gear up for this final assault on the finale.
Trying to make it to the hospital.
They move out. Yeah, let's follow that. They go, I'm going to ask for help, and they stick out their thumb, and someone picks them up. Someone really nice. And they go, this is really nice, and they're chatting along, and you have a reversal. It seems like everything's going to work out, but there's almost always some sort of reversal. There's a little catch which makes.
Well, then maybe they say something that offends the driver.
You have to. Yeah, they've got to work a bit harder, and so the driver. The driver, as it turns out, is cataleptic and suddenly falls into a coma. Like, they shouldn't be driving, I know, but they suddenly have a sort of small coma, and the car crashes, and suddenly the hero has a hurt leg.
Yeah.
And they go, oh my God, how is this going to work out? I remember that CPR course. And they reach over and they go to give this guy CPR, but, and save them just as the ambulance, because this guy, he knows he's in trouble. And the ambulance turns up to save him. And so he goes, no, I'm all right. But this guy, he's got his wife at this hospital and the broken leg. And they go, no worries, we can get you there. Suddenly, by implementing something he's learned, he manages to turn this seemingly awful situation, like this reversal, which has just like upended his dreams, into the victory. Yeah. And that's where we have like that final sort of the final image, basically, where we have the real finale. Everything turns out one way or the other, and the final image shows us what the world is like now. What can we expect if we come back in a couple of years' time? This is what we should expect. We should get an idea of what's going to go on here.
Yeah, the happily ever after, so to speak. Even though it might not be that, it might be.
It could be a devastating tragedy.
It could
or
be,
if you go the cabin in the woods, the God comes out to destroy the earth.
That's right.
but you're satisfied by that because that's what you wanted to have happen. You sort of wanted to see something.
Yes. So let's go through some of those key beat points for Minority Report and also talk about some of those moments in a bit more of the film language-wise. So this film, Spielberg said to his cinematographer, I want the dirtiest, grimiest looking piece of cinema to open the Minority Report. And a lot of people have talked about this, a lot of film theorists out there, you can look into it. They're like, this is a very unusual start for a Spielberg film. There's about I don't know if it's like 4 or 5 minute opening segment of this film that is, it's like a music video clip, it's distorted, it's dreamlike, it's weird shapes,
it's black and white,
grey, and there's grainy bits,
repeats,
it kind of gives us the impression of someone stabbing someone, and we see a flash of a man and all this kind of thing, and it does go for a good probably 5 minutes. So I think the cinematographer achieved that actually. So that the opening image of this is quite bleak, and then we kind of cut into this Apple world again, the clean Apple world.
Yeah, because it gets you thinking that you've got like that real noir feeling, like that black and white distorted footage.
Yeah.
Then it comes into, I took note here of the fact it comes to the wooden ball being cut by lasers, it's this surgical precision. So you're going from this really, like you said, distorted, grungy looking footage.
Yep.
Which just repeats and it's nonsensical, dreamlike, to suddenly you got like the exact opposite, which is like the perfect orchestrated machine, lasers, slicing, polishing, dropping balls, mechanical, everything is going exactly as planned. It's the exact opposite.
The snooker ball drops down.
Yeah, which I didn't remember the reason for it, So I was watching it going, what a bizarrely convoluted way of getting a name.
I know. It's a mouse trap, isn't it? It's like it's there's comedy to it, but maybe then that way it's like it's not just a digital message, maybe like it's literally a visceral message, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's red.
So it's very. I mean, it's film. It's visually it's showing. Not telling, sorry.
Well, see, this is, of course, why we know that Spielberg is very experienced at this. He's not an amateur. He's done this. And he's
making us watch it and
got
analyse
a style.
it.
He's learnt it. And he's gone, well, I could just have like a little printout of paper, a name.
And a screen on the screen.
And that would work. And for some films, a certain variety film, that would work. I remember the starting of Alien has a lot of that. Like, just But that's trying to give you that isolation feeling of there's nothing here that's human. But this here is, it's so hypnotic, the movement of it. You can go onto YouTube now and look for satisfying videos. And there's all these sort of computer graphics of very realistic animations of extremely highly choreographed movements of machines cutting and slicing and moving and
nice.
So on. And you watch it and it feels satisfying because, these blades cut through some sheet of paper just perfectly, which then falls exactly. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So then we're sort of introduced to this police department, aren't we? And John, and we get this choreographed.
Yeah, Jono. The year's 2054.
The year's 2054. It's kind of a... I liked how John comes kind of like pacing into the, and we're behind him, like the camera follows him, and it's I like how these police stations are never really what police stations would ever be like, but they're
any office situation I've ever been in.
Like there's sort of weird ramps going up somewhere up to the next level, and people all like it's an Apple store.
Well, the joke is made in the Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that one where? Have you seen Last Action Hero?
I have. Yeah.
So where they go into the LA Police Department. We've just seen it earlier in the real world. Now we're in the cinema world.
Yeah.
And cinema world, there's glass screens and there's like multiple tiers of mezzanine levels and computers and people, like everyone looks beautiful and it's just you go, I've walked into a lot of office buildings, even I've been in some high-tech fancy office building, being in the IT career. Never seen anything like that.
No, I know.
Certainly not the level of beauty. I mean,
I feel... You're not in IT, so you're not in IT.
I feel well at home at the offices I've gone to, not like walking in there, you sort of look and go, there's like Tom Cruise and there's that guy from those other, was his McDonald or McDowell or whatever his name is, with the blonde hair with the weird eyes. Yeah. And he's, you go, I feel really plain.
But anyway, we learn a bit about John here, apart from the cinematic, choreographed, zooming in, whatever. But we sort of learn that, he's the chief, he's the professional. We're kind of learning the system. Again, what I like here is this idea of showing, not telling. This film does I just want to note here, like, it takes about 30 minutes of the film for us to actually learn how it all works. Right? From the start of the film, Spielberg shows us moments like the lasers and the snooker pool thing, right? We don't have to really ever see that again, but we see that. We see John do his zip, zip, zip thing on the computer. We see that they rush to stop the crime. Then we get told about the sort of precogs, you know what I mean? So it's kind of is like he just gives us pieces of information. It takes about 30 minutes. It's pretty solid sort of, it's not just like two people sitting down, you and I, and go, oh, we're in the future and there's precogs and they do precrime and they tell who and we arrest them. You know what I mean? Like they could just do that, and films do that. Or you and I say the voiceover or the text scroll, the text scroll, right? Like, and we're not talking about Star Wars text scroll. That's very different. We're talking about the year is 2054 and 3 precogs. Like there was no need to do that. He kind of quite masterfully, I believe, slowly breaks that information down over about 30 minutes. And I really appreciated that. I liked that. But we do learn that John is, he's the action hero. He's the guy in calm. He's the one with all the information, all that sort of stuff. We cut to this beautiful house and we see the husband and wife. And I thought about, because you described with Extinction coming down to breakfast. It's that, isn't it? He comes down to breakfast.
Yeah,
and the wife
it's that scene, isn't it?
It's that same scene and the wife and that. But this time, the man is actually saying, maybe I should chuck a sickie. And she's going, no, I think you got that presentation or something. And
in my house, it's the other way. Sorry, you're not feeling well. You need more sleep. Just take day off sick. Oh, no, well, I might as well go to work. I'm like,
so I might as well go to work while I'm sick.
Just
work from home, that
chuck a sickie.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
If I said that to my wife, I'm like, I'm going to chuck a sickie, she'd be like, hell yeah. Send the kids and let's go.
Picnic in the park.
That's right. So, or you take the kids to school.
Yeah, you got the kids to school.
You got the kids. And I can have the day off. We sort of see that, and he seems suspicious. The son, it's quite a good dialogue. You want to learn dialogue. It's a good dialogue scene because the mum, it's very much, you probably do this as a family. Everyone sort of talks to each other at once. And that's what happens in that scene. Did you notice? Like the mum and the son are doing something about their presentation, or he's studying or something. The husband's intention is, maybe I should stay home with you today. The wife answers that, but they keep having she keeps having the conversation with the son. So it's a good dialogue there.
Well, this is quite a nice scene also, because it is you're recognizing fragments from that broken dream that we saw.
Yeah, that's right. We sort of noticed the man is the man.
And we've seen Tom Cruise doing his little bit with the computers and seeing... And so now I was just genuinely curious to know, how is this going to turn into a murder?
Yeah.
Because at the moment, I can see he's a bit... he's suspicious. There's something... And you can see he's a bit tense.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look like a murderous sort of fellow.
No.
Like,
and it's a world that's very glossy. The lighting is very... and in fact, I thought he just did this at the start of this film, but a lot of the film, the white is really overexposed.
I was going to talk about that in this because there's a... and I think this goes back to... At the very least, it may be earlier than this, but the Wizard of Oz, you know, where it's all black and white, she arrives in Oz and it's colourful.
It becomes colour,
And in this film here, we have a lot of this high, white balance or contrast and a very lot of film grain. I think you're talking about film grain. I'm just trying to think about which episode. But anyway, we're talking about, if the director has got film grain showing, it's particularly, on a streaming service or on a DVD, as this was done, it's because they want it to look grainy.
Correct, yeah.
And this is distinctly grainy. There's moments that we'll get to where it goes different.
Yeah,
the coloration's quite different and it's a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
But this is part of that, and it's that a lot of white is reflecting off things, and we get...
it's actually ramped up. That exposure of the shot is ramped up, and it actually does continue throughout a lot of the film. In the exterior shots, it's almost like the whole world is a bit white and overblown. Like if you overblew a photograph, it can be very white, and it kind of does that. And anyway, so they figure out that this man... They figure out where he is, and he turns the building, the brick type or something, isn't it? Right.
Yeah.
And so then Tom Cruise and they all get in these jetpack things and they fly off in this thing that goes up into the sky.
Like what is it, the Thunderbird style?
Yeah,
where they go up in this elevatory thing and they jump in these flying ships.
The humans are kind of stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, well, it's
like a roller coaster thing.
If you could imagine them all in a string, and then there's like a roll, they get rolled up into the ship.
Into the ship. And it takes, obviously, because it's that streamlined, it can get there a lot faster than a helicopter could, I guess. Excuse me. And so they get off, and meanwhile, we see the husband leaves for the day. He walks off. The man across the street... kind of who was hovering, and we saw in the dream, he then enters the house. Now, the husband has actually not gone to work. He is chucking a sickie, and he creeps behind the tree. And I do want to say that, to me, initiated something that Spielberg has decided this whole film, it's very similar to like a film noir film.
Yes.
So even though it's science fiction... it's almost just like a murder mystery genre film in terms of how it looks. So how the characters walk and creep, and even how the mystery of the story unfolds. It's like one of those old 1950s, 1960s. Could be an Alfred Hitchcock film.
Isn't the classic opening is, it was a dark and stormy night, and I was minding my own business trying to drown away the terrible memories and in Scotch when... she walked into my life.
Yeah. It's the same thing here, really, isn't it?
And the same thing happens here, except in this case, the she that walks into his life is a precognitive, mutant. It wasn't clear exactly how they became precognitive, some sort of experiment, but anyway.
Well, they were the kids of junkies, basically, isn't it? But what I wanted to say is if you're out there and you enjoy your mystery movies or your film noir sort of movies, this movie does have that style.
It does.
To it. In the narrative, it's there, and it's also in just the look of the film.
And in the characters, too. Tom Cruise's character is a junkie, is a drug addicted.
Which is like the old alcoholic detective.
Yeah, he's
doesn't look after himself.
Trying to forget his wife, but can't.
Yeah, but deep down, he's a good guy.
Deep down, he just wants what's
good. And then
he
gets accused of the murder, right? I
ain't no murderer.
It's the same as actually North by Northwest, now that I think about it. It's a very similar plot point. But he gets there in time. The team get there on that weird roll. They all jump out of the sky out of that machine, and of course he's faced with a wall. This is where the tension is great by Spielberg. Isn't it? It's like a wall of homes that are all the same, and he like calls back in the memory. Was it the door was open or the door was closed? Was the door open? The door was closed. And of course that cuts inside the house where you can see the husband like gets his great big pair of scissors. Who owns those types of scissors? I always want to know.
No, I don't know.
I don't own those kind of scissors. They're like a foot long sort of scissors.
No, we've got kids. We only have those safety scissors.
No, we've just got, and I can never find our scissors. Anyway, and then you said that, and then Tom is like calling back to the base, and that assistant brings up the memory. He's like, "Which door? The door swiped through. Oh, the door was open." Then he just runs across the street
Mate, in Tom Cruise fashion.
In Tom Cruise, and of course the husband's then ripping the cheating wife off the guy as they were about to have sex, and he's about to stab him when Tom Cruise is on top of him and
grabs that arm.
And I think he say something like,
"I wasn't going to do it.
I'm arresting you for the intention to kill your wife," or something.
The pre-crime of murder.
Precrime murder. So, and the great thing there is they all act like that's normal, that's fine, like that's totally, we're used to doing this. The husband is a little bit more like you and I as an audience going, huh? He hasn't actually killed her. What?
I didn't do anything. I haven't done anything.
I didn't even do anything. I wasn't going to hurt her, and you're like, yeah, how are you arresting him, So I liked that about that scene. We then learn that John is a bit of a junkie. He gets drugs off the street. This is, I think, where the theme is stated, by the guy that has no eyeballs.
No eyeballs.
I can't exactly remember what he says, but he says something like,
The eyes
are the windows to
no. He says,
like or those with the eyes have the knowledge or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I did remember it.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh, that's the theme.
Oh, my goodness me. But anyway,
So,
it also is a bit of a foreshadowing
of
Tommy pulling his own eyeballs out.
Yeah.
But you jumped over old Whitwer. Danny rocks up.
Okay, yep.
Because I thought that was interesting because immediately we get that painting that Danny's out to, thwart things.
Yes, he is, isn't he?
He's a bit of a bleeding heart.
He doesn't like the system.
He looks at the precogs and says, so will they ever get out? No, they don't ever get out. They're just stuck there and they're drugged to their eyeballs the whole time. And he's like, oh, okay.
Doesn't sound very good.
and it's funny because initially you're thinking, yeah, you're bleeding heart liberal. They're doing good work here. You can't stop that. But of course, later on you realise that it is kind of a bit cruel keeping these kids. Like you've never really even asked if they want to do that.
Yeah, I found that like Whitwer, I agree. Like it's almost like at first he's very abrupt and he's cold and he's a bit rude and abrupt to Tom Cruise and co. But it's the same as I said with that husband, that he's kind of almost like that other voice in the conversation going, yeah, hang on, how does this work? Who's agreed to this?
Yeah.
Has anyone thought that you're mistreating these people? Oh, no, we just drug them up. Yeah, that's not very nice. How does it actually work? But like, oh, well, they see the future. Yeah, but how does that work? How do you know it's telling the truth? Like, and you start to go, yeah, he's kind of right here. Like, what's going on?
I don't think there's really a problem. If you had some way of predicting crime like this, I don't think there's a problem of interceding. But putting those halos on them and stacking them in a basement somewhere, like they haven't done the crime.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they were going to as close to knowing that they're going to as you could. Like, Tom Cruise literally grabbed that guy's arm as it was swinging down with scissors.
Yeah.
But, okay, you've stopped it.
Yeah.
So attempted murder, or as I said, assault, because he was threatening. It was a dangerous thing. But surely you're better off, counselling them.
Yeah.
Like if you knew someone was planning to kill someone, go catch them and say, hey, let's talk about this. We can solve this problem a lot better.
Now, is this the catalyst then, Whitwer?
Well, I was confused a bit, and I think the reason I was confused, I'm thinking, is these are films that I've seen before, so I know where they're going.
Yeah.
So it is often harder. And I was thinking, okay, so...
Like, what are you saying is the catalyst?
There's two bits. One is, let me see where it's...
Because to me, one could be... the obvious one is John being accused he's going to murder someone, right?
Yeah, so, but that doesn't
happens
happen.
quite a little bit into the story.
I was looking at this ad for the absolute infallibility of Precrime, which to me, might rub me up the wrong way, where someone says it's absolutely infallible. You go, well, it's not.
Yeah, no, nothing
But
is.
and then vote on Precrime is coming up.
Yeah.
On whether it's going to go ahead nationally, and to me, watching the second time, I went, oh, gee, that's when you're hearing there's some political thing. You're going, oh, there's going to be meddling. You don't know if it's going to be Danny or who it is, but yeah, I think that was the catalyst there, because I got that feeling as someone's going to meddle in this absolute, perfect situation.
Yeah, which makes sense.
And we're going to discover it's not absolutely perfect.
Yeah. And that's the crux of the story, isn't it? Is that John is accused, and in John being accused, it's set up, but then John gets through the setup, and he ultimately unravels the system that he believed in. But so that is the question of the whole film, isn't it?
Because he is challenged by Danny about the infallibility.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that's sort of the debate is, does he listen to Danny or does he go, no, this needs to go ahead? And he does go, and it's I marked it as about half an hour in, the red ball drops with John's name on it.
That's the second act.
And because I was thinking, because I knew this was coming, I was going, is that the catalyst? And I was going, Jesus, it's a long way in.
Yeah,
it's
too long.
It's too long. I would have lost some interest by now. Like, it's quite an interesting film up to the half-hour point anyway. The first half hour is, but it would be like, what's the point of all this?
Yeah.
Like, there's so much action, and I've seen a few movies like where it's just so much action and things are going on, but you kind of go, yeah, but why?
Yeah, why am I watching
What are the stakes? What's interesting here? What am I suspecting is going to happen? I'm not really suspecting anything's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, Whitwer does turn. I think for me, the inciting incident is basically, if you think about it, John's in this little bubble of he's the expert, he's the chief, he's the guy running.
Sure, like when Danny comes in and says,
he's the master.
I'm going to go see it, and says, well, no, you're not, because I'm in charge. And then he hands in the paper, and John sort of reads it and goes, okay, well, I guess you are.
So Whitwer being there, sorry, not Whitmore, Whitwer being there, to me, that's probably the catalyst, I reckon. Like him, because the catalyst is this pre-crime program is going to be investigated, and it's not just a rubber stamp; it's going to be investigated heavily.
Yeah,
and realistically, that sort of sets in motion everything, doesn't it? Really, because then what we've learned later in the film, of course, is Lamar sets up John.
It adds that doubt in John's mind about the infallibility.
That's right.
I mean, and to be fair, there was no murder in Washington.
Yeah, for 6
no one's
years.
been murdered. You're like, well, that is actually really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do say the real planned murders have totally stopped. Like anything
premeditated. No one's done one of those in a long time.
Yeah. So during this debate then, we do learn things that the federal government plans to make it a national program if they agree with it. We do also have the idea of Whitwer investigating Agathis. He wants to investigate the precogs. We learn about them. There's kind of a bit of a, what's the word in a murder mystery of that, the scientist guy, he's a sort of set up that he might be a bit of a creepy guy, isn't it?
Oh, the red herring.
The red herring, yeah, that's what it is. I was just trying to think.
And I like the terminology where they talk about the temple is where the precogs are. And as it turns out, Danny was in training to be a priest.
Yes.
And a couple of times in the film, he kisses a holy thing or whatever it is. That if you're a holy person and you have a thing that you kiss, let us know what it is.
Yeah.
I assume it's a bit twisty, really, kissing crucifixes, isn't it?
Yeah. So, as I said, it's shown to us here, which is quite good that, the precogs have a flash that takes the three of them. Agatha is the strongest. And we also learn about how they're arrested. And then, again, it's shown to us by John questioning the vision and then him going to that weird warden guy that's in all the Coen brothers movies.
Yeah. And in the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah, he's great, that guy. He's got such a great voice.
Yes.
Like, his voice is so great.
Oh, he's in that Disney movie Holes as well.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, I know the Coen brothers love him. He's in a lot of the Coen brothers movies. But, yeah, like, he's a weird warden. And, again, gives us a lot of context. Like, you know, he's eating eggs. He's cooking eggs and bacon there. Like, it's odd.
And he plays a pipe organ.
Yeah.
This is straight after visiting the temple and the guy being a priest, and now he's playing the pipe organ, and you're like, oh, that's very Catholic.
When they bring up the prisoners, it's like they're pillars, aren't they?
It looks like the Fortress of Solitude in the first Superman films.
It's a bit bizarre how that all works, but it's anyway. So he does realize there that there's a memory of Agatha missing.
Yeah.
So he's that puts more doubt in John, doesn't it? You know, and it just so happens that happens. That then after that, the fork in the road here is that then he's accused of murder.
Yeah, so now he's got a bit of doubt that this could possibly be true, and he's sort of been shown this Anne Lively murder, which is missing one of the pieces, and then he's going to be murdering, but he knows nothing about this murder. He can't imagine how he would be motivated to murder someone.
And it's great, isn't it? Because he sort of, it's like murder, killed. Yeah, it doesn't quite do it in this movie, does it? But like Demolition Man, the voice
murder, death, kill. Murder, death, kill.
The ball comes out and he gets the vision first, doesn't he? And he can see it's him.
Yeah.
And that judge or whatever also goes, I don't quite know what I'm looking at. He just turns it off. And I thought, well, doesn't that, what he just did then, doesn't that show you the system is skewed?
Yeah.
Because if the sheriff, him, can just turn off the judges, it does say something about the system.
Well, that's the point that Danny makes, is the flaw in the system is always a human.
Always a human.
And he found the little inhaler of the drug, and he goes, I might have found the flaw.
Yeah. So the other thing here is the B story, I think, is Tom's son.
Yeah, the son.
So it's kind of been hinted, when he does the drugs back at his apartment, he plays these weird, little 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional sort of holographic visions of the kid. So that's sort of before he's accused of murder in the plot. But to me, this is like the B story, is his son.
And isn't it really cool? I was just remembering after he leaves, the pre-crime room, and that guy says, "Look, I like you. I'm going to give you 2 minutes before we hit the alarm."
Yeah.
And he runs and jumps in the elevator, and Danny's in there with him.
Yeah.
And Danny says, "You've got something you've got to tell me, isn't it?" And John's thinking, "Oh shit, he knows somehow that I'm a pre-crime murderer," and he holds up the drug thing, and so you realise, "Oh no, he doesn't." John pulls a gun on him.
Yeah.
And he says, "Yeah, I'm not really worried. I don't hear any alarms sounding." And then beep, beep, beep.
Murder, death, kill.
Yeah, and he suddenly goes, oh no.
Well, maybe you are.
I'm in an elevator with a dude pulled a gun.
Yeah.
This could be
That was a good sort of twisting of the screwdriver, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then off runs John. That's good.
Yeah, so he goes running and...
he has his auto-drive car thingo and
which
yoga.
Straight away I thought, surely if it's all auto, they'd just turn off the car. And then they do.
Yeah,
so it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you're returned to base, you are.
Yeah. And then it's also, then he's walking his retina. So this is the fun and games. It's like John on the loose when you're accused. So he was the guy that grabbed people, and we saw how quickly they could grab that husband at the start of the film. So now he's accused. Who's going to get him and how quickly? And how quickly does the society identify John and use the retina and then come after him in that roller coaster?
Well, they did, thing, and then they had the
big jetpack.
The jetpack fight. That was good. Because again, I forgot how funny this was as well, where he got dragged up the wall and they get into the apartment and he presses the afterburner or whatever, and the flame comes out, hits the grill with the hamburgers and cooks the hamburgers. And then
he does a thing actually in this Spielberg where there's that action going on, and it's like how the action, like that family, they're fighting and they hit the ceiling, and their dinner table kind of like bounces up, and they go and they lean back in their chairs. Yeah. Another filmmaker wouldn't necessarily do that, and then they come crashing through and of course like ruin the table and the dinner and everything. But if they had sat there, they would have gotten hurt.
Well, see, that's a literal fun and games. Isn't it? This whole chase all the way through to Dr. Heinemann is fun and games. And Spielberg plays with that. So I don't think there's anything too serious that happens here. Like there's some, tense moments, but then there's like, the sick stick,
Yeah.
where he makes the guy chuck on the other guy excessively.
Yeah.
And then there's the jetpack fight and the yoga scene, and there's a few of these things. And then there's this amazing fight in the factory, the Lexus factory, where they're fighting in amongst these robots, and
As
the
the cars
robots
get built.
the robots just keep going. And isn't it a lovely little Lexus ad where John gets built into the car and then he just sits up and drives off with it? It's like you almost hear the Lexus voiceover says, "Cars built around humans." Like built around your lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's just perfect.
It was a terrific fight scene, very futuristic, and you think he's going to get squished, and he gets away, which is great. And he does. He goes to what you just said her name, the
Heinemann.
Heidemann, that's it. Yeah, so she's this old woman. And again, I love this. Like, he rocks up, he climbs the fence into a yard. This weird vine tries to grab him a few times, scratches him, stings him. And of course, then as he's walking really rapidly, he's like starts to not being able to breathe. And so by the time he gets to her and her greenhouse, this little old woman pottering around, she's like, "Oh, you're going to die really shortly," And so it's it's like a great way of twisting the power play of the scene between the two characters, isn't it? Because if she, as a little old woman, anyone could just come up and kind of put a gun in her face and take the power, but you've broken into her house, she's built these traps, that only she can kind of solve.
You also get an idea of her ethical standing.
Yeah.
It's like her morality there is she's not good, not evil. She's kind of a little bit sideways, because she saves him and then tells a story about, saving the kids. Wasn't really what we'd intended, but it's not like she's doing anything to stop it.
No.
She sort of goes, "Oh, I do sort of regret those kids. Oh, well, that's just what's happened."
Yeah.
And on with life, as it were. And she tells him about the fact that the only place that these memories are stored are in the precogs.
Yeah.
And Agatha is always the one who disagrees. She's the strong one.
And that's called a minority report.
And it's called a minority report, yes. Which is...
And she's coded it so it gets stored into the precogs brain.
Yeah, and this is... I think we're moving into the midpoint here where things get a little more serious, because we get the eye surgery after this one.
Yeah.
Because he knows he's got to go and find a way of avoiding...
I think the eye surgery is still the fun and games, but...
It is, it is, because it's still... In fact, it's got that humour in it about the... Yeah, the nurse is a little bit funny, and then he eats the ice from the ice box that was holding his eyeballs, and that's still kind of... You can still feel a bit of playfulness there, and it's still playing out what we're expecting this future world and how he escapes. But he turns the tables at that point, because once he gets the new eyes, now he's on the offensive.
Yes.
Like, he's no longer on the run. He's going back to the cops. He's got a plan.
It's true.
And he jabs himself on the face with that needle that makes his face go saggy.
I know you talked a lot about the spider scene in that earlier, but can I just say, like, from a film point of view, it's really interesting that... So he's done the eye surgery, and the eye surgery itself, great bit of tension that this doctor just jabs him with the anaesthetic. So he starts like wearing out, and then as he's wearing more and more out, like slowly passing out, he goes, "Oh, do you remember me?" And it's like, "Oh, you arrested me," and it's like, "Oh, okay." And John's kind of slowly passing out, and it's a great, and he reveals that he had arrested him years earlier and sent him to jail, and he was kind of, mistreated, raped or whatever, mistreated in jail. But we're also told, like, he burnt patients.
Yeah.
So he's not like a great... And yet here's John risking his eyeballs. But it's just great tension builder, isn't it? Even though it's a little bit funny, it's an awesome narrative device that as John... So if you imagine you're John, you're about to pass out, someone's going to cut your eyeballs out, and you've just revealed you were the person that put him in jail, And
you did it because he wasn't just treating burns victims, he was causing burns victims, yes.
So there's that's a good bit of narrative. The other thing is with the spider scene, not only is it great tension building, but from a camera point of view, isn't it so cool that they do that above the... over the top of the ceiling kind of look of all these apartments that John's level, and as the spider, it's just such an interesting way to shoot that, isn't it? Because the spiders come in and we're above them. You mentioned before, there's like a mother and two little girls. The girls hate the spiders and she's calming them, and it just kind of keeps tracking over them to another apartment. There's a husband and wife having a real physical, verbal argument, and the spiders come in and they stop arguing for a moment.
Yeah.
The spiders scan them and they go, and then the camera keeps panning, tracking over the top. And there's another guy, like a guy on a toilet, an old guy doing a shit on a toilet. And then there's John in his apartment. So I just think it's such a interesting way of shooting that, all those apartments and showing them.
It'd be interesting to know, so Spielberg, if you're interested in getting in touch with us, let us know, because we'd like to know how you come up with the idea of shooting it in that fashion.
Yeah, it's a long tracking sort of shot.
Because it shows so much, because it could easily have been a low to the ground at spider level shot, shooting along the floors and following along the point of view of the spiders doing stuff. Yeah, but it wasn't.
It wasn't. And then in terms of tension building, John hops into the bath. He's in the bath. The spider comes in, blows it. The spider turns away. It's reminded me of Jurassic Park, this. Yeah. And then there's a bubble. And that bubble is actually what sends the spiders back in. But then at the same time, the cops are descending on his apartment because there was that glitch of there is someone there and there's not someone there, isn't there? And then, of course, when the spider scans the eyeball, it's not John. And so we don't have to enter the apartment.
Yeah, it's Mr. Yakamoto or whatever it is.
Yeah. So he goes back to Precrime, as you said, jags the face, uses his eyeballs to get in, and steals Agatha, right?
And flushes himself down the toilet.
Whitworth is like, there's no way out. Flush. Very similar to The Matrix. Flush him down the toilet.
Yes, it was and also sitting in that nutrient solution as well.
Yeah, and the fact that you can just flush it away.
Yeah, and off he goes down, dragging poor old Agatha along, and then we don't see John planning. We see the other detectives doing detective work. What would they be doing? Why would he nick off with her? It's no good. He's already been pinpointed, and that's when the tech fellow says, "Oh no, well she's got all the memories in her head." Yeah. And, so Danny's sitting there going, well, let me see. He'd need special equipment put together to deal with that. And he looks at John's desk and sees special equipment put together. And he manages to find a great big label of Rufus, someone or other. This sleazy-looking fellow down the entertainment district. And then we cut to John meeting Rufus, who's dealing with that customer who wants to murder his boss. That would be a terrible, terrible fantasy to have. It's all one thing you think, I'd just shoot him or something. It'd be another thing again to you shoot them and they don't die immediately, and so they're pissing blood everywhere and screaming, and you go up and shoot them. I
think we've all had a boss at some point in our lives where we might, it might have been a teacher, it might have been a parent, it might have been a actual boss, it might have been, someone that you really didn't like,
It's nice to sort of say, I want to, do this virtual reality to kill my boss, but if you were then actually put in it and had to experience, you'd suddenly realise that, this is why people say it's not a nice thing.
But maybe this is the debate of the story, right? I really want to kill that person, right? So come on here and see what it would be like, in a virtual reality world, right? Now, I know what the argument would be on the other side of the fence. It'd be like, but you're showing them something. What if they do like it? But I think you'd probably find 99% of people would be like, oh, my God.
Yeah, that's actually a bit more horrible.
That was so much, I do not want to, because most of us can imagine how bad it would be anyway. Yeah. Literally to then experience it, So anyway, might be a thing. Because, also your fantasies are the same. Your fantasies don't always turn out the way that you wanted them to be anyway. Dreams and nightmares all in one go. So Anderton fails he's trying with Agatha to figure out his act of violence, his murder, and he realises with Agatha there is no Minority Report.
No.
So for him, because that's what he's hoping, I'm going to get the Minority Report of me to prove I wouldn't kill someone, and through Agatha he realises there is actually no...
So with this then would be the turning point, you reckon? This is the midpoint?
This to me is the midpoint.
Because it's a false victory. We think,
Yeah.
he's got Agatha, he's won. He's going to now prove his innocence or prove we're going to see a way for him to escape his fate. And it turns out we can't. But instead we're shown Anne Lively, the murder again. And he's like, why am I seeing this? But he downloads it because Agatha wants him to see it. She grabs his hand and says, do you see? Do you see?
Yeah.
No, I don't. You're too cryptic.
I just want to know who's this guy I'm going to kill.
Yes.
And so that's what he does. There's this debate between Agatha and Anderton of she's also saying to him, you don't have to go there. You don't have to go there.
And it's a cool escape sequence where she's telling him the future.
Yeah.
Wait for the man with the balloons, with the balloons. And,
that's right.
And he's saying there, and, you're going, how is this going to work? Because the cops are coming right up to look directly at him.
Yeah.
And just as they pull up and turn, the man with the balloon stands, he's completely hidden. And then they all run off and the man with the balloon moves off. And you go, oh, that's pretty cool.
And she's like, get an umbrella, and they go outside and it's raining. And of course the cops come outside and everyone's got umbrellas, so you can't see them. And in his vision, there was this third man. And so he comes sort of to I think it's after the raining where they come up into this courtyard, and he sees that there's a billboard being lifted up and it's that third man, but the third man was on a billboard.
Yes.
And so he's like, oh, it's in this apartment somewhere, right? And he goes in there. There's an Aussie actor on the hotel concierge in that room, in that hotel that he goes to. And he finds out, he's like, oh, is there, because the guy's name was Leo, wasn't it?
There was an L.
Crow. Leo Crow, I think. And he's like, oh, he's on this level. So he runs up there with Agatha. Agatha the whole time's going, you can turn around. You don't have to go in this room.
You've seen your future. You can avoid it.
You can avoid it. And he's saying the whole time back, well, I'm not going to kill anyone. I don't even know who is this guy. And, of course, burst into this apartment, and on the bed he sees all these photos of kids. And so we as an audience, I think I was really rapid even the first time I watched it. So I'm like, oh, it's the guy that killed his kid.
Yeah, I know. You get that,
you straight away go...
It's sort of almost a Seven moment. If you've seen the movie Seven, you get a similar sort of feeling at the end where you go, oh, no.
Oh, no.
I won't spoil that for you in case you haven't seen it.
The great thing here is Cruise, John is very much straight away like, oh, I wasn't going to kill someone, but I think I am now.
Yeah, but maybe. And he sees the photos of Sean, and he's like, okay, who the hell is this Leo? And Leo walks in.
Yeah.
And he confronts him, and there's a whole fight, and there's some tears and stress, and
he confesses that he killed his son.
Yeah.
And put him in a barrel, and the barrel floated or something. Yeah.
And then Tom Cruise John's going to shoot him, and Agatha keeps saying, no, you don't have to. And he pauses. Yeah. And he pauses just long enough that Leah goes, oh, come on, you've got to do it or my family gets nothing. Yeah. And which is a dumb thing to say because suddenly John goes, you're what now? Yeah, yeah. And you can see him, his attitude changes. He goes, hang on, there's something very fishy going on here. And we get the story that this isn't Leo. This is just some dude that got let out of prison and told that if he acted up and got shot, his family would win some prize. Yeah. Right? We don't know what this family's going to get, but obviously it was important to him.
And so, but with that, he grabs the gun and kind of forces him to be shot.
Yeah, so it shoots himself,
the same as the
basically.
Vision. Yeah, same as the Vision was.
Or, well, I don't think it was... It was just moments because his alarm goes off.
That's right, it was after.
And he doesn't shoot.
Yeah,
and that's when there's the struggle afterwards. So he avoided the exact fate. Yeah. But as it turns out, more or less a similar fate occurs anyway. That's right, yeah. It's just whether John was guilty or not. That's the only change, really. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Whitwer shows up at this murder scene of Crow, and he goes, do you know what this is? He goes, I worked homicide for many years. And he goes, have you? And to the other guys, like, to that other detective, do you know what this is on the bed? And he's like, what? He's like, orgy of evidence. Yes, that's a really good term, isn't it? Orgy of evidence. And he goes, oh, what's that? And he's like, well, it's where all the evidence is kind of laid out in front of your eyeballs. Yeah. Do you know how many cases we get that on? And the guy's like, no. And he's like, none.
Yeah.
And so he's like, this is a setup. And so Whitworth
and don't you
there-
hate it in those movies where the whole plot point is that the setup happens, and you're looking and going, that's an obvious setup.
Yeah.
Like that is just
But
too,
no one sort of sees it.
It is too convenient that it's all there, and there's no one that asks the question of, well, why the heck does this guy have all of these photos out just as John comes in?
Yeah, Whitworth here, I think this is where his character, for us as an audience, turns really quickly because he's just like, this is a setup.
Yeah.
And so we know that he's then not necessarily the bad guy. He's trying to make it, he's just trying to find the truth. You know?
Yes. He's an actual old school cop.
Yeah.
He's admitted he comes from homicide, he's obviously then skeptical as to whether you can really have pre-crime homicide.
And so John and Agatha head out to his wife. His wife also kind of gives away his location to Lamar. It's on the phone.
Yeah.
So he kind of, we know that John's been double crossed by his ex-wife, but we do know that they've had this strained relationship from the son.
Danny got shot too.
No, not yet.
Yeah, he's
It's when they
Danny
go
gets
out.
shot first, and then Laura calls Lamar, and she says, "Don't tell Danny. I think I'm suspicious of him." And he says, "Oh, there's no chance. There's no way about me telling him."
Yeah.
So that's one of those.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Is that like sort of as a bit of a death going on there, which is because you've got this character Danny going ahead, doing this, that, and the other thing, and suddenly you go, oh, Danny's actually kind of on John's side.
Yes.
In this, he doesn't
And then
believe
he
John
gets
is a murderer, and then instantly
He's
killed.
yeah.
And as he's laying all this out, and you go, oh, he's a good guy. That's when you also simultaneously realize he's laying it all out to the wrong person.
Yes.
He's telling the exact person he shouldn't be telling.
That's right.
And then, have you told anyone else about this? No. Why does everyone say that? You should say, well, yes, actually.
I've told everyone.
I gave it to this reporter. He's going to be publishing it in the morning news. In which case, it's like, well, there's not much point in shooting you then, is there?
Yeah. And so John, with Agatha, they're explaining that through the visions, we see the vision more clearly that the mum was drowned by this like hooded man. And we sort of, it's weird because this vision has been shown to us earlier. And I think it's actually even in the opening sequence, there's a bit of it.
Yeah.
But we're sort of seeing it more clearer. And then in this bit, Agatha and John, they have a tender moment. And it's also his son is involved in it. She
sort of recounts
recounts
his future would have been.
Yeah, his future would have been, but then also not. And then she tells him to run, and the cops all rock up, and he's arrested. He can't get away this time.
No, we're going into Act 3 at this stage here, where we've got a real down point here where everything seems to be lost, isn't he? He's metaphorically sitting in by the side of the road with the rain, in that he's got his halo on and he's chucked into a prison. And it's interesting here, I think, also in that this act is multiple participants as sort of the protagonist role. So it's not all just John doing stuff. Now suddenly his wife is getting involved, and that other funny blondie Goldilocks fellow is sort of helping out a bit.
Yeah.
In delaying and so forth. But it's like this is John gathering his resources, if you will. If we're talking about that sort of stage in Act 3.
Yeah. So to me, when he was arrested, that's right before Act 3. And he's locked up. Now, as an audience, it's like, oh, yeah, it's the Dark Night of the Soul. Like, he's on the side of it. He's out of the picture. And his wife, at that point in time, doesn't really trust John either. You know, he's been on drugs. He's kind of rocked up. He's accused of these pre-crime. She's not necessarily on John's side. And there's that scene, she goes to Lamar.
Talks with Lamar.
And she talks with him. And it's such a great, it's one of those, like, to me, this is where Spielberg is at his best. Like, you kind of, the tension's there. One character, you obviously know one character knows a piece of information that they're not going to reveal to the other character. And it's kind of like, how can they get tripped over? And Lamar, he even gets her to, like, tie the tie. And whilst they're doing that, they're having this kind of weird and she's realizing, oh, hang on, you're not telling me the truth.
Yeah.
And it's in that, and we as an audience are like, well, we saw him shoot Whitworth earlier. Is he going to just shoot her to clean up the mess? And he doesn't. And then he's going off to celebrate pre-crime becoming national.
Yes.
So I think this is the thing. You're saying the protagonist is no longer John. It's because what you said is the inciting incident is the story, right? The story is actually, should Precrime become national?
Yes.
It's not really about John. It's actually that theme is the point of the story, right? And so Laura learns that Lamar did have something to do with Lively's mum dying.
Yeah.
Because he mentions drowning when she had not mentioned
Yeah, and that's a classic
it's just
noir
a word.
trip up, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is.
Like,
It's like,
I never said the person's name.
Yeah.
I never said they drowned.
I never said they drowned. Oh, you know. And at the same time, he's going off. He's representing the celebration of Precrime becoming national.
And we get this great present gifted to him, and it's a gun.
It's a gun.
So you know that's coming out.
That's right.
That's it's even signed by Chekhov himself.
So to me, it's like that. John's arrested pre-third act, and then she, meaning Lamar, is right before third act as well. But realizing that truth, is third act. You know what I mean? That's the crossover. Because then it's like, what does she do with that information?
And we talk about the gathering of resources for the plan.
Yeah,
that's where she goes down, and she has the eyeball.
Yeah,
the spare eyeball that John kept. He didn't drop down the drain.
No.
And gets John out. And we get a little bit of a comeuppance to that smarmy warden who's a little bit, I don't know.
Sleazy or gross.
There's something wrong with him anyway.
Something a bit off with him.
Yeah, he deserves a little bit of punishment. Not a lot, but just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, we sort of get, a real plan playing out with a bit of cat and mouse, a bit of the, talking on the phone and, it's too late anyway. And then he spots him. And we get the little reversal where I don't think John was expecting Lamar to have been given this gun as a gift. No. And so suddenly John finds have confronted Lamar's got a gun. And
the precogs say there's murder.
Yeah, murder on the roof. No, murder coming.
Murder, death, kill.
Yes, and John, of course, he says, well, this is... He has that realization. This is... So the reversal, he's presented with his gun. He's like, oh, but, he's figured out what, as you said, what this whole point was about Precrime going national.
Yeah.
And Lamar doing anything he can to cover up the dirty way that he got it all working. Like, do the ends justify the means? And John's going, well, not really.
Yeah.
Because John's about justice, and there's no justice in this. You can't just say, oh, sure, we stopped all his murders, but you did it in an unjust way. And he gives that dilemma, which is, if you shoot me, then that will prove, this pre-crime thingo has worked, but then it'll be canned because you'll go to prison.
Yeah.
So, if you don't shoot me, it'll show that pre-crime isn't absolute because you can, clearly if you told the person, like if they catch up with the person and say, hey, pre-crime, we know you're going to stab the person. They go, oh, no, I'm not. And they chuck the scissors away. You go, oh, well, we just stopped the crime.
Yeah, we just stopped
They had a choice, as it turns out. So it's a very cool little dilemma that he gets stuck with. And again, we get another classic noir thing here where they're pulling close and the gunshot goes off and both the characters look a little bit sort of startled or whatever by it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, but it works so well many times because it still wasn't sure who would, because it could easily have been John who got shot, and then his wife cradles him and they make up at the last moment where he goes, "I'm really sorry."
Proves that pre-crime is not the way. You can't solve all of it, Yeah.
Yes, but anyway,
but he's shot himself.
Lamar shoots himself, and we get a pre-crime doesn't go ahead, which is, and then we get this final image. What is this final image, and how does it make you feel?
Well, so we get told pre-crime's abolished. The Last Action Hero set.
Yes.
The sheriff's police station is cleared out. No one's in it anymore. We get John with his wife again, and she's pregnant.
Yeah, that's
so
important.
That's kind of
I love
revolving.
This is one of those beautiful
story.
shots where the camera's moving, and we see John. He's in his apartment. It's raining, which is where it was last time.
Yeah.
And then it keeps pulling back, and his wife's there, and it pans a little bit further, and she's pregnant. And so you go, okay, so...
He even rubs the belly,
Yeah, so you're going, okay, so it's the bookend. He was, at the start of the film, he was alone in his rainy apartment, and he would take drugs. And now he's with his wife. Oh, but they've sort of found peace with his son's loss, and now they're going to replace him with a cheap knockoff.
A new baby, yeah. And then the precogs are now, isolated in a nice home by the lake, and their hair's growing out a bit. So a bit of time's gone by.
And doesn't
they're
it look
reading lots
so
and lots of books and
cozy? Doesn't it? Like it's like this cozy, warm wooden cabin by the lake, and and they've got all these old books around them to read. You sort of look at that and go, "Oh, how many sci-fi nerds watching this film see that and go, oh, that's me. I want to do that."
That's lovely, yeah. But meaning that then they're not drugged up in some cesspool
yeah,
where they're being abused for their powers.
They get it to have a bit of peace.
Yeah.
Which is nice. And then it
rolls credits,
flows out.
Yeah. So it's a great film.
And, of course, these last scenes were without that bright white filter and the graininess. You notice they had a more natural tone. It was a bit warmer feeling.
Yeah.
It was, cleaner as well. So...
Yeah, for sure. So well worth checking out for many reasons. Filmic-wise is awesome. Spielberg's on full display in many of the facets here. It's a Hollywood film, but it's a great Hollywood film and definitely worthy of being a classic for spacebrains. So we do have our sort of classic ladder where we've looked at the classics every 5th episode and just kind of putting them into, but sticking with maybe what would you watch Minority Report with the classics that we've looked at. Sorry.
I would like to say, let me think about this one, because I liked The Matrix because it's sort of got a similar future sort of thing, but I also like Demolition Man. So I'm because The Matrix, because it goes from it goes to this real gritty reality through visions, and Demolition Man it is the frozen in ice and it pops out.
Yep.
In that future. So I would definitely put it with those two.
Murder, Death, Kill.
Murder, Death, Kill. And also it sort of breaks up some of the action. I mean, gee, what a rich trilogy to watch.
That would be an amazing trilogy, yeah. That's awesome. And for me, I'm looking at it a little bit more thematic wise. So I thought actually sticking it as a couple of films around it was we looked at Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, yeah.
So I reckon that, again, even though Minority Report's much more modern than Invasion of the Body Snatchers, there's that thematic version of that old school sci-fi storytelling and that the Body Snatchers, if everyone's controlled by the aliens and how do you escape their spell, it's kind of also the same here, like society dictating, well, it doesn't matter if you're going to kill someone. It's just if you think about it, you're going to be arrested.
Yeah.
And then I think the other one would be Fifth Element. So I think more that sort of, again, that futuristic world that Fifth Element dictates and the themes that come out of that also kind of interplay with something like Minority Report. So I think those kind of 3 in a row, that would be one hell of a sci-fi adventure.
Oh, yeah, I think so. There's some of these, there's 3, triple feature. That's what it's
right.
called.
Yeah.
So, I think that it'd be great if other people would let us know what they think. What 3 classics would you think they should go together? What 2 with Minority Report to make 3 would go together? It's you can we'll just go back through and have a look at every 5th episode. You'll know what all our classics are.
That's right, and let us know. Hit us up on the socials and let us know what you're watching along the way. So what about the science, Surrey? Are we talking about robotic spiders that scan eyeballs? Are we talking about computers that we can play with our gloves on like Michael Jackson?
No, we've already got those.
Okay.
We're talking about precrime.
Oh, precrime.
Crime, prediction and prevention.
Well, we know what turns out if you do precrime.
Yeah, well, I mean...
It doesn't turn out well.
It doesn't turn out well, and... interestingly enough, there's a recently released paper about an artificial intelligence future predicting crime.
Yeah.
The author of that points out that this is not really for the purposes of catching people before the crimes happen.
No.
Like, that's just not really good. But
just preventing?
Yes, modelling. We'll get to it because there's a rich history of crime research to find out what it is. And there is an American government body called the National Institutes of Justice,
right.
Much like the National Institutes of Health, the NIJ. It gathers research and papers on topics of the justice system and criminology, I think the term is.
Yeah.
And so they have there a little brief history of crime prediction, crime modelling, if you like.
Yeah.
And we start really start with actual sort of statistical analysis and scientific analysis of this thing back in 1829. So there's a fellow Adriano Balbi and Andre Michel Guéry, or Jury, or I don't know how to pronounce that name. So any of the French people out there.
Jerry.
So they produced some maps which showed the relationship between education level and violent and property crime in France. And it shows that, of course, low levels of education and increased poverty result in more crime. Mm-hmm. So we've known this since 1829.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is I've read through some of these other articles, and they're going, oh, we can do all sorts of things to try and prevent crime. And I was like, but we've known for like 200 years that the way you prevent it is by providing education and getting people out of poverty.
Uh-huh.
Like, not getting more police. Police are handy. They're good. We need them to enforce laws.
You still need them.
But if you want to reduce crime, you don't reduce crime by having more police. You reduce crime by not having the crime in the first place. But
So
anyway,
free education, good quality education.
anyway, so let's just ignore science and statistics and rationality here, and we'll just move on into the early 20th century, shall we?
Yes.
Where we have Clifford Shaw and Henry Mackay. So they mapped
Cliff and Shaw.
They mapped thousands of incidents of juvenile delinquency, and they analysed the relationship between delinquency and various social conditions, finding that people who were poor and with poor education and with broken homes tended to be more delinquent. Not terribly surprising, I suppose, but they were able to find the levels of correlation, which is quite important. So in the 50s, Jane Jacobs moved forward to examine the built environment and how that worked with crime. And her work led to later research which posited the crime has spatial patterns and thus it should be able to be forecast. So this is important because if you just go on, it's people with low education and are poor. And you go, well, that's great, but how do we identify? We just do a census and identify poor people with low education and there's going to be crime near them, or is it like they're going to commit crime? Well, so that's not terribly helpful, really.
Yeah.
You need to be able to go, well, how then can we determine levels of crime? We're talking about crime here as a generalized thing, a population thing, not specific individuals committing crimes. Yeah. Because how do you forecast that Mark is going to commit crime X at this date? You basically sort of can't really, but you can sort of say this area is high in crime in general.
Mind you, when you're a known offender, sometimes they do trail known offenders.
Yeah.
So like the Claremont serial killer, for example, for a few years there, they literally followed a couple of high known suspects, which turned out to not be the actual Claremont serial killer.
This is one of the problems, of course,
interesting thing,
when you
it?
do that, it borders, you border on things like harassment, which is almost entrapment. Like if you follow someone who's like, say they've come out of prison and maybe they're struggling to integrate and to go straight, and if they constantly got cops pressuring them, even just by knowing they're there, like the police don't even have to talk to them.
No.
But if every time they look around there's sort of police hanging around, or they get the feeling that like you're almost
Probably
pushing them to
make another mistake,
to be impulsive, Yeah. Anyway, so in the 70s, criminologists, they started having a look at the importance of place, because they're going, this is something we can deal with. We can't. Yeah. Individuals, they've got free will. They can make decisions. Things, they come and go. But places, maybe there's something about place. And so Lawrence Cohen, no relation of the author here, and Mark, actually, I don't know that. Ooh. No, but I would say not. And Marcus Felsen. They came up with this thing called routine activities theory. Rat. Yeah, I know, right? Rat.
Another rat.
So routine activities affect crime is what they're saying. So for a crime to occur, they said that three things must coincide at the same place and time. A person motivated to commit a crime, a suitable target, and a lack of capable guardianship. And due to the consistency in humans' routines, they argued that we should be able to forecast crime because, people, go to work. They go to work in the morning, they have a coffee break, they go have lunch, they visit the gym, they visit their friends on the weekends. These things are things that we repeat over and over again.
Yeah.
So you can almost take that out of the equation and then just look at the areas where the crimes are happening. Because the areas will be where the same people go to all the same time. Yeah, so anyway, then we had this another bunch then who put forward, so that's the other bunch being Paul and Patricia Brantingham. Gosh, I'm going to change your name, Paul and Pat. First of all, it's Paul and Pat, and your last name is Branty.
There you go. Surrey's decided.
That's it. That's you've just been renamed. So they put forward the environment criminology theory. So they are saying that there are 4 things intersecting on time. So a law, because obviously you need a law, a person motivated to commit a crime, a target, and a place. And so the place is a distinct location where the other 3 intersect, so that you can graph these things.
Right.
And then we have crimes may spatially cluster because either criminal has already spent time and energy stalking a neighbourhood, of course, or the learned behaviour may result in what they call a peripatectic cycle. I had to look that one up because I'm going, what the hell is a peripatectic? But that's just a peripatectic cycle is just things you commonly do. You
Sounds
always
like a
go to the
Nando
gym.
sauce.
You go to the gym after work,
Right.
and then you catch the number 3
Your routine.
bus home. And so you have this habitual locations. You are at the same sort of times.
Yeah.
And so if you get these, everyone has a slightly different cycle, and so you get the person who's motivated to commit the crime happens to cycle through at the same time as the person who is a victim at the same time that the police aren't nearby. And now you get the opportunity for a crime.
Right.
So if you can look at these places and these cycles, you should be able to predict a bit of crime. So the spatial distribution of crime. And so that, we fast forward then to the 90s, you've got this CompStat idea where they're trying to reduce crime. It was made famous by the Chief Bill Bratton while in New York City Department. And so the difference is CompStat was a methodology for preventing and reducing crime, which was data-driven. Right. So this isn't just, hey, you guys, it's your turn to do this section, it's your turn to do that. They were actually gathering this data about place, about, cycles and crime hotspots and so forth, and sending police there to try and solve problems associated with crime.
Yep.
And we finally have Lawrence Sherman, Patrick Garton, and Michael Berger. So they examined 323,979 exactly calls to Minneapolis Police Department during 85. From 85 through 86, I should say.
Wow.
And they found 50% of all the calls originated from only 3% of all possible locations. And they also found a greater concentration of crime around micro places than around individuals. So Fred Smith might well commit an assault, but that might be the only assault he commits his entire life. Same with, Jane McCluggins. She robs a shop. It might be the only crime she commits her whole life. So really that's only one crime out of a whole lifetime. That's not much. But it turns out they're both within, 50 metres of each other and within a week of each other.
Right.
And so you go, there's actually something about that place is meaning that crime can happen.
Yeah. It's encouraging the crime.
Yeah. And then this led to questions such as, why aren't we thinking more about where done it rather than just who done it? These results marked the beginning of hotspots policing. Now, hotspots policing, I'm sure you can imagine what that means.
Yes.
It literally means that they go, this street
They
had
hot on a particular spot.
Yeah, so this little suburb had a lot of crime. This is Whodunit has a lot of crime, so we will put a lot of police there. And yeah, you catch a lot of people, but is that just because you put a lot of police there, or because there's actually a lot of crime there? Hard to tell. So anyway, that's just a little bit
Then
of...
you also neglect the other areas.
you neglect the other areas. And we have this AI system, which was created. It was by Ishanu Chattopadhyay. You're renamed now. You're John Anderton. Ishanu is a PhD and is the assistant professor of medicine at University of Chicago, senior author of the new study, which was published June 30, 2022 in the journal Nature Human Behavior.
Right.
So came up with an AI used to predict crime accurately in 8 cities in the US. It also revealed an increased police response in wealthy neighborhoods at the expense of less advantaged areas. Yes, because hotspot policing. They'd say, this is high-value crimes, so we will have a high-value response here. But really, early efforts at crime prediction have been controversial because they do not account for systemic biases in police enforcement, i.e. they tend to prefer to be in the wealthy areas because the crimes there are easier to fix, basically, and its complex relationship with crime society. So it's interesting because they basically got a whole bunch of violent and property crimes, fed it into this AI, and I've spoken about AI enough now, and then they said, okay, start giving us predictions of where violent and property crimes will occur. And they did this by dividing the cities not by suburb or borough or any of those sorts of things, but just into equally sized 300 by 300 meter squares. And they said this was interesting because previously people had done by suburb and postcode. As you may have heard that the certain postcodes in Perth are the meth capital of Australia. Congratulations, Perth. We're number 1. The problem with that, of course, is crimes don't really respect these geographic boundaries. No. And by saying, I say like Coodnupper Greenfields is a high crime spot area, it's sort of unfair because there's plenty of places in both of those places that are not high crime. Like you go one street over and they're perfectly fine.
And also like you might have murder, death, kill in another suburb, but Greenfields you have a lot of robberies.
Yes.
But then it's not to say the robberies aren't bad things for people to experience, but over here you had a murder.
Yeah.
Like which one is actually worse?
So they broke it up in this 300 by 300 grid regardless of political boundaries or postcodes or any of that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so
right.
that they could generally see whereabouts physically places were located. And they also took into account topology of the city. So this is an important idea that you can't just draw a dot and go, this is sort of statistically the center point of the most number of crimes, and then so that's a hotspot, because that hotspot center point might be in the middle of a building or something. And you can't then just draw out a radius because it could be on a train line. And it's actually the train line itself is causing these crimes to be able to occur because these cycles people have. They get on a train at one spot, they get off at another spot, and this other spot doesn't have good guard system. There's not great video cameras there. And just down the road from there is a drug dealer. And so there's people that tend to get off that train station and mug a couple of people on the way to go buy their pot. Well, not pot anymore because in America that's, a lot of that's quite legal. And I think that if you really want to get pot in America, you just go to one of the legal states and smoke to your heart's content. I don't really know what the laws are over there regarding that, but there you go. So anyway, the spatial models ignore natural topology of the city. Transportation networks respect streets, walkways, train and bus lines. Communication networks respect areas of similar socioeconomic background. And this model enables discovery of these connections because you have these small spots that you can trace to a much finer granularity. And so the question is, why do you do this? So not for pre-crime. So it predicts with 90%, it would say this 300 by 300 meter spot is going to have, next week it's going to have 2 violent crimes. And you go, oh, that's pretty exciting. But the model takes into account movement of people, transport, communication networks, and also law enforcement. So they're saying this model is more to be used as a digital twin. So what you would say is you set this area up and say, okay, then what happens if we change the train schedule? Because this is an interesting thing. It's like, okay, what if the trains were 5 minutes difference instead of every 15 minutes or every 10 minutes? How would that affect this prediction model? Because that shifts where the crimes occur, because people, maybe by shifting it by 5 minutes like that, people going to and from work are shifted spatially from the people who are going to their drug dealer. And so you no longer get that crossover of people not paying attention while rushing to work and the guy looking for some easy cash. Or alternatively, maybe by having it more frequent, that guy doesn't go to a drug dealer. He actually makes it on time to his job interview. You can't predict these things very well. And also you might say, well, what if we put police patrols in this ratio, or we move here and we go, oh, this area here is low socioeconomic. What if we introduce some spacebrains filmmaking workshops there so that people can make films and not war? That's the idea of this thing. You're not going to be able to rush police there and catch the crimes in place, because even the act of doing that will change where those crimes will occur. This allows you to find out good ways of spreading your resources, basically.
Yeah, well, any what you do with that data then, isn't it? So those data points are entered in what you can do with it, and hopefully prevent. All you can do is prevent it, but because even all that stuff you were saying, whatever the modelling actually means, in my brain, I'm like, yeah, but you can't predict, like Whitworth says, you can't predict when you put a human in the room.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like a serial killer, for example, you can't necessarily predict what he's going to do.
No, because you're getting too specific. You can talk about trends and population style probabilities, where you can sort of say, if we change the train schedule, if we do the police thing, if we introduce social events, cultural things here, we would expect a reduction in crimes in this area. You're not saying that you're curing individual criminals,
no,
as it were, but you're sort of saying that this is going to be that. And so the idea is we'd be able to try and do that largely enough, because people don't, generally speaking, people don't walk around just wanting to do crime.
No.
Like, it's often the case that they find themselves in a moment where impulse overtakes them, or they're desperate and down, or something. So I'm hoping that sort of thing means then that people do things like, well, let's have more. We know it's here after school gets out, there are fights. There's more violent crime here. We don't know it's the kids. It could be any number of things. But how about what we do is we build a skate park there and have competitions.
Yeah.
And now suddenly that changes the way people interact with that space. It could just make crime occur somewhere else, or it could mean that the people who would normally have found themselves desperate or in a hard spot have some other outlet for their impulse.
That's correct,
dropping into a 12-foot bowl is a fair bit of thrill for anyone.
Yeah, because the thing is, you can take that data and you can prevent. So you could say, like you said, change the train schedule. You could maybe improve the lighting. You could add more guards or police a station there, or you revamp the train station. You know what I mean? Like you could do things to prevent, and we get a lot of that here when they we're putting CCTV and we're adding lighting and we're changing the pathway, whatever, right? Like, so you do that. That's prevention. That's to help prevent it. But then the crime would probably just move a block over where it's dark, or to the other train station. You know what I mean? Because even if you beautify one suburb, there'll always be another suburb that's not as beautiful and cheaper to live in, and statistically you'll probably end up with more drugs or whatever in that area. So there's prevention, but then those other ideas are actually ways to be more proactive. So let's run a film festival, let's run a skate clinic, let's build something for the kids to do. Let's go back to your original statistic. Here's an idea. Why don't we educate them? Like run adult youth classes for free. You know what I mean? Like train up the gangs so that they're actually looking after their neighborhood and they're not they're not against the police.
Yeah, you can imagine that beginning. Hey, you know what's even cooler than being in a gang, kids? Picking up litter.
That's right. Well, you get someone like Tom Cruise to sell it,
Oh, that'd be intense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
He'd do his, really intense stare. His little jaw muscle would move a little bit. And you go, pick up the litter.
Pick up the litter now.
Yes. Oh, I know.
Anyway, that sounds awesome. So what do you think about pre-crime? Is it possible? Surrey's outlined some data points there, and I presume that in the future there's going to be more and more data. So
absolutely. Why not?
That's really the future, is data. I mean, you could start tracking everyone's phones and, all sorts of things and get that raw data, can't you? So it'd be interesting where that does head. I'm sure a lot of police, if you're a police officer, you might be someone that's like pre-crime is the way to go.
Yeah,
I don't know. Just prevent the murder. But what is wrong with preventing the murder before it happens?
No, I definitely think you should. I think the question all just comes down to what you do afterwards.
What do you do afterwards with that? Do they get a warning and then they're sort of watched after that, or they have to go get training?
I think they need a bit of a helping hand, really.
I don't know,
You're not killing people. Well, some people do kill for the fun of it. If that looks like that's what they're doing, then maybe they should be
They need to be
removed from society.
Anyway, let us know what you think about that. So that is the end of episode 85. That's our classic. Hit us up on all of our socials. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify or wherever, give us a 5-star rating or chuck us a review. It always helps enable more people to find Space Brains.
And keep an eye out on us on YouTube. We've got a few things out. We've got some stuff from the film festival.
Mm-hmm. And there's more to come.
Coming shortly, there will be some more of us.
Yeah,
hey, what are we doing next episode?
This one is super exciting. This is the one that you need to tune into. We have local West Australian feature filmmaker extraordinaire, Ben Young.
Ben Young.
So the whole episode is dedicated to Ben.
And you'll remember he was the director of
Extinction.
I nearly said Extradition, but that's not the right one. Extinction, which we did, was that the 2 episodes ago?
Yeah, episode 83,
Yes.
pretty sure. And yeah, we got him on the show. We had a great interview with him, full hour-long chat about the intricacies of filmmaking, Extinction.
Oh, yeah, he gave some great insight there on, say, the differences between directing, because he's directed TV shows as well as feature films.
Mm-hmm.
He goes a bit about some of the interesting differences there. He talks a bit about the interesting difference between working Hollywood compared to independent.
Yeah.
And, how to capture some ideas. And, there's some really good, valuable stuff in there. I thought it was extremely enlightening.
Yeah, it was a great chat, and you've got to tune into that one. So let us know on socials what you think. Give us suggestions of films, and give us a review, or let us know what we should be looking at on Space Brains. Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Bye.